I've heard a lot of people say that the Xbox 360 controller is their favorite controller ever. It's certainly up there for me, and in its generation, oh boy, did it ever kick the PS3 controller's butt. First generation Xbox's revision control, the S, kicks the PS2's butt. I don't like the GameCube controller. You don't like having a good analog stick on the right side?
No, I don't need it.
The idea of this controller, as you can see, is to bring back 100% the Xbox 360 controller. It looks, feels, smells. This one smells old. It's definitely a little bit lighter. That being said, they are only producing a wired variant, which at first kind of seems like a bit of a shame, but then I realize how much trouble wireless can be. It's nice just to like plug it in and have it work. Let's see what else is in this box. To that end, there's what seems to be a very long USB Type-C cable. Proprietary stuff always sucks. USB-C is definitely a huge win. This is long though. I'll go down. It's 10 feet. It might not be long enough if it's your living room PC and you have to kind of plug around the back or right around some stuff. But for most scenarios, especially if you're right around your PC, 10 feet is more than enough. Thank you for not cheaping out on that, Hyperkin. Outside of that, we get a sticker, quick start guide, and a little purchase cardboard. I'm bringing in my actual 360 controller. It's a little beat up, but it'll give us an idea of the comparison. It's the same, cool. Hey, video's done. Thank you for watching this video. Before we even compare, let me give you just kind of general hand feel. First impression is it's fairly light. It almost feels like it doesn't have rumble in it, but it does, and it actually has rumble triggers, which is a cool little update, bringing it up to par with the Xbox One and Series X controllers. The plastics feel pretty convincing in terms of almost feeling as good as the Microsoft's ones. They feel a little bit cheaper. They're stiff and rigid, but the texture on it is a little bit off. I might just be used to 15-year-old controllers and the touch of that. The screw layout looks pretty identical. I almost wonder if they got the exact moldings from Microsoft. This is actually an Xbox branded product, and so it wouldn't surprise me if they got the official molding from Microsoft themselves. If you didn't tell me that this wasn't a first-party controller, I would have a hard time saying it's not. It shares the same strengths, which was the great triggers for the time, good analog sticks, very comfortable shape, and it shares the ultimate weakness, which is the worst D-pad of all time. Different sound. I don't think they feel quite as good. I think the original ones feel a little bit better in terms of analog sticks. They feel fairly light. I use mostly a DualSense and a third-party Xbox One controller, and both sticks feel a little stiffer than this. Not the end of the world. I know some people like that really snappy feeling, but I find they feel a little cheap. These are potentiometer-based sticks. They're not Hall effect, unfortunately, but in a product such as this, I'm not super surprised. The clickiness of the sticks actually feels a little bit better on the Hyperkin than the decade-old 360 controller, but I don't love the plastic finish. Feels okay. Certainly not as good as the Xbox One and Series X controller. In terms of buttons in the middle, it has basically the same things, start equivalent, select equivalent, and then also a little share button. I believe that's what that is. In an absolutely valiant effort to redeem the worst D-pad of all time, Hyperkin has made it slightly more clicky, so it gives a little more tactile feedback on the direction you're pressing. But when I do my Street Fighter moves test, the forward, down, quarter circle forward, I could not tell you what's being pressed at that moment. Whereas on a Super Nintendo controller, on a Saturn controller, or a PlayStation controller, you can feel each part of the press that's going down. On the top of the controllers, we have the same right bumper, left trigger, Type-C versus the original port. It has the Hyperkin etching versus the Xbox One. Another little upgrade on the bottom is, instead of this proprietary accessory port, we have just a 3.5mm jack. And I think that's one of the greatest improvements we've made to controllers over the last 10 years. Although my dream for the Elite series and the Edge series on PlayStation is that they would put a good DAC in there, because I find when I plug good headphones into my PS5 controller, it just sounds like doggy doo-doo. All right, that about does it for the physical exploration. Let's plug this bad boy and test it out, but not after I tell you about our sponsor.
Thanks to MSI for sponsoring this video. From oopsie I spilled my coffee to epic gaming marathons, MSI's got your back and your laptop too. They've got everyday laptops for those mildly productive moments, value gaming laptops for when you want to accidentally conquer the world, and flagship gaming laptops that scream, "I'm so awesome, even my keyboard glows with envy." So whether you're a master procrastinator or hardcore gamer, MSI has the perfect laptop for you. Disclaimer, MSI laptops do not possess magical powers to clean coffee spills or guarantee victory in gaming. Check out MSI's epic summer sale at the links down below.
Look at me. I was about to plug this in without even showing off the other and clearly superior colors. Let's do that. Oh, that is a really nice red. Ooh, with the gray accents too. It's usually hard to beat pink, but I found myself surprised by my color choices these days. Amazing experience. I don't like the pink. It looks cheap. So far, red is in the lead. Still better than the white. Almost no plastic in this box, which I appreciate. This is like a cardboard. The only plastic is around the cable, which, although it's a shame, pretty acceptable by most packaging standards. So nice job, Hyperkin. All right, so now for the David Goche official color rankings. What I would buy. I think I would do red, black, pink, white. Whatever texture they're using on their plastics makes the pink look really cheap and third-party-y. Okay. So each color actually comes with a different color cable. So pink comes with pink, and red comes with red. Okay. It's the details. If you were bringing back the 360 era, yeah, you probably want it because you like this controller, but you also like the aesthetics of it, you know? That retro aesthetics. Which is pretty crazy to think the 360 is turning 18 years old this year. It's old enough to vote. I think the general rule is 15 years, but I've heard some people say no. One of the strengths of using the Xbox controllers, even since the 360 era with the red adapter on a PC, is that it's instantly designed to work with everything. It works with Windows, it works with all the games. Steam can figure it out right away. And even older games, even if you use a PlayStation controller on the PC, will still have the Xbox button prompts. Traditionally, when I play PC games with the controller, I choose Xbox controllers because it's just a tiny bit easier, and that's enough for me. Tiny bit easier. I need all the wins I can get in my life, guys. I need every single one, okay? First impression, it's way too much rumble. Like, it's really intense. It's like making my hands feel tingly. There is both vibration in the controller body and the impulse triggers, although the body is so violently shaking that I don't feel the triggers at all. It might also be that this game, as it's a Sony game, isn't designed to use Xbox controllers to their fullest. The trigger feels pretty similar to the 360 one. It's a little light for my tastes compared to modern controllers, but it feels pretty good. Let's see the shoulder buttons. The Hyperkin has the better shoulder buttons. It feels a little more inconsistent on the button press, like how much I have to press down on each part. But that was a big problem I had with the 360. Like, when you press here, it's such a short travel, but when you press here, it's like a freaking inch, man. I feel like the sticks are tall. The Hyperkin one, the shaft is a little thinner. Yeah. And it looks slightly more elevated from the controller. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I don't know if I love that. There's sometimes where it's kind of cool to have the extra precision that a heightened analog stick can give you. Definitely not a deal breaker, but that's something I've kind of generally found with Hyperkin controllers. Is they're generally like pretty darn good, especially because they're coming generally at a value price. But there's usually like one or two things about them that are almost too much of a compromise. I have like the Hyperkin Scout, which is their cheap Super Nintendo controller, and I really like the D-pad on that. It's very clicky, but then the shoulder buttons are weird and off, and the whole shape of it's just like a little bit wrong. And that's what I'm finding with this, is that it's really close to a 360 controller, and if I wasn't, you know, holding a real 360 controller in my hand, some of these things might not bother me. The resistance feels more similar to the 360 one, but it's definitely clickier. And then when you compare it to the modern Xbox controller, these things have like almost no feedback. Like, it's kind of really easy to press. And it makes me sad that that's the direction they went. These feel so much better to me. This is slightly too clicky. That's a pretty normal Hyperkin thing. I think with a bit of wear, after about a year, these would feel more similar to the 360 one. The Hyperkin Xenon is a pretty good approximation of the 360. Getting used stuff is always a roll of the dice. You might get lucky, you might get a good deal, and you might get one that's not super worn, or you could get one that you open up and has a family of cockroaches living inside. Being able to buy a new version of an absolutely beloved and classic controller is really nice. The few compromises are a bit of a bummer, especially the sticks. Seems like a strange one to me to get so wrong, but everything else is a pretty good experience as long as you can turn down the rumble. And so if you really want to relive the 360 glory era with a modern controller, this is a good option, but is it worth the $50 they're asking for? I probably would spend the extra $10 and get a modern Xbox controller. I think they feel more comfortable. They're more premium. Yeah, the face buttons and the shoulder buttons are a little bit less good, but the D-pad is clicky in the way that you need it to be. And it's just an overall better controller. And you can use it wired right out of the box, or you can buy a wireless dongle for it. And so I have a hard time recommending the Xenon unless you specifically want the 360 feel, which you might want. And in that case, it's pretty good. Just like the segue to the conclusion is pretty good. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. If you want to check out some more controller review content, why don't you check out my video where I unbox the DualSense Edge and have some strong opinions.